Hi, and welcome to the Uplift with Dabney Brice, the podcast where we'll elevate global stories by shining a spotlight on underrepresented narratives, educating ourselves about current and historical events and diverse cultures and communities. Let's journey together to step outside our comfort zones, uplift each other, and make the world a little bit better along the way. Welcome, my uplifters. It's your girl, Dabney Brice. Today, we got my friend Julius Wibisono on the podcast. He's currently a senior at Lehigh University, about to graduate this month, but he's also a DACA recipient, and DACA stands for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. DACA recipients are also known as dreamers. We hear about immigration and DACA in the news, but it's important to hear how these policies are affecting actual lives, which is why I asked Julius to come on. So we talk about what DACA has given him, his hopes for the future, and what home means to him. So let's dive in and let's get started. All right. Thank you for coming on the podcast, Julius. I'm really happy to have you. And just to dive in deeper into your story and what made you who you are, for the audience, a little background on like how we know each other. We know each other from Lehigh. You are 2 years younger than me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think so. So I was a junior when you were a freshman.
Correct.
So like we know each other really well from Lehigh, and then also like you're a brother of Kappa Alpha Psi, which if you don't know what Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated is, it's a Divine Nine fraternity, which is African American, like one of the first African Black fraternities.
Yes.
But all of the Divine Nine fraternities and sororities are multicultural. So because I was an LTA and Julius is a Kappa, we worked on the same council together. So
yes,
that's just a little background. I like to, because sometimes it's like, who is this person like related, like in relation to me? And I'm like, let me let the people know. So It's not like a random person.
Mm-hmm.
I may have random people, who knows? But for now, it's all people that I know.
Exactly.
So Julius, just to get started, just tell us a little bit about who you are, a bit about yourself and your background.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dabney, for having me. My name is Julius Wibisono. That is my full government name. I am a senior here at Lehigh University studying finance and minoring in Africana Studies. I have been privileged enough to serve as both president, vice president, and treasurer of my fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, and also the treasurer for the Culture Greek Council. I'm originally from Indonesia. So it's been a minute since I've been back, and we'll get to that later on, right? I hope, Dabney. So
yeah.
A little bit about me. I love photography. I've actually been working on my own portfolio, and I've just been trying to enhance some of the contents on there. So Dabney, if you ever want to do a shoot, let me know.
I was about to reach out to you because my 25th birthday is coming up soon.
There you go.
So
that's important.
You send me the dates, bro. I know you got finals coming up, so
yeah. And I'm also like kind of booked for shoots because it's graduation, so it's crazy out here. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Nice. And we'll get into a little bit more about. I do have a question related to photography later on for the fun questions.
Okay.
But as you said, like you are from Indonesia. I don't know when you came over to the United States, but I'm sure you'll tell us a little bit more about how you got here. But you are a DACA recipient or a dreamer. So can you explain, for those that don't know, what DACA means, and what that program is and why it's important, and like how it relates to you and your story?
Yes, absolutely. So just a quick background, DACA is an acronym for Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. So what this program is, it's pretty much a policy that protects, I think, around 800,000 young people now in the United States. The number could be more actually since the program had started. And these recipients, they are sometimes referred to as dreamers. So those are like the nicknames for the recipients. This program was granted to young people who entered the country unlawfully when they were young. And so what a lot of people mistaken this program for is that it gives them a pathway to citizenship and it grants them, legal status, but unfortunately it doesn't, right? The only thing that this program allows us to do is to receive driver's license, to receive social security number, and of course the most important part is the work permit. And ever since that program had come out because of former President Barack Obama, I, along with 800,000 Dreamers, have been able to go to Lehigh University or to any other colleges in the nation with financial aid, right? Because, it's tough if you are an international student or if you are an immigrant in general trying to pursue higher education without social security number, without a work permit, or without even, a valid driver's license. So that's a little bit about the DACA program.
Yeah, and just for my own personal research, because immigration policy is something that I'm very passionate about, just as being first generation. But DACA also, it's specifically for those who were brought over as a child, not necessarily from their own choice. So they didn't immigrate here because they decided, you didn't decide. How old were you when you came to the United States? Do you remember?
I was 7 years old, and I think that was the year 2006, 2007. I don't remember. It was definitely 2006, actually, now that I think about it. So I was 7 years old.
Yeah. So for people like you didn't decide when you were 7, let me go to the US. Mom, can we go? Mom, dad, can we go? Or whoever was your guardian. That was a decision made for you. And for what people don't know about DACA students is that they don't know another country as their home. The US is their home. They grew up here, they went to school here. You would never be able to tell if someone was a DACA recipient, just by looking at them or listening to them talk. They're just your average person living in the US, working here, going to school here. And so DACA allows you and others to do that without fear of being deported, without fear of being deported, essentially. So that was established in 2015 under the Obama administration. So what was life like for you before DACA and after, once you received your status?
Yeah, so the program was actually established in 2012, and so it was very early, and this was at a time when I think I was just entering high school. And at the time, it wasn't a big deal for me because I didn't understand the bigger picture of the program, right? I didn't understand the whole thing until I was applying for colleges. And so when I had figured out that because of DACA, I was able to apply to certain colleges, that's when I was like, oh snap, this is actually for real. I need DACA to get financial aid from certain colleges. There were even schools that was yeah, we unfortunately can't accept DACA recipients because we don't have the proper program to fund you. Just because also you are, first gen and also low income at the time, right? So I was like, okay, well now the research gets harder because I have to specifically look deeper into, what these schools has to offer. I remember when I was applying, there were only 3 schools in Pennsylvania that were DACA friendly. One of them was Lehigh, the other one was Gettysburg, and the last one was University of Pennsylvania, right? Out of all the schools in Pennsylvania. So I was like, well, I guess I'm applying to 3 schools in the state. And then the other school I was applying to was the University of Notre Dame, which I got into. But, that at that time, it just came to, financial aid. It came into distance about my parents and I. And that's how I got into Lehigh. And it was a stressful process because it was then when I realized yo, this is for real. Big time now.
Yeah. And I can imagine the stress too, because you go through your education, elementary, middle school, high school, and you're thinking almost like you're just like everybody else. Like, I'm going to go through school. And then by the time it's my junior year, senior year, I'm thinking about colleges and I apply, I wait, I take the ACTs, and that's it. But like for you, there is that extra added layer of, oh, I can't just apply to any school. Like like you said, you had to dig in deeper and figure out which schools were
Exactly.
DACA friendly so that you could also, like you said, have the financial aid to be able to even go to school.
Exactly. And yeah, that was I think the hardest part.
Mhm.
And it didn't really hit me like, there are like, everywhere you go, there's always that minority group, right? That first year I was like, so I am a minority, but even more so like in the minority group, like that little clique, because there's only a few number of dreamers who pursue higher ed, and I think at the time there was only like three when I entered my
Wow.
first year. So, and I didn't even know any of them until I was a sophomore. So that whole first year, I didn't even like mention any of that,
Hmm.
because I thought like, we were in a safe space, and I wasn't comfortable with the idea of like mentioning that.
Hmm.
And then obviously that next year hit with our new president,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
That was just a big year for
Hmm.
DACA recipients.
Hmm. Yeah. And just like you said, in 2017, um, the Trump administration rescinded DACA, and that left hundreds of thousands of people in limbo and in
Mhm.
fear of deportation or losing scholarships or not being able to finish their education. Um, and we'll get into sort of like like you did a lot at Lehigh in response to that, and you still continue to say a lot of things. But before we get into like what your specific actions were, I want to know like what was your initial reaction? Like when you found out that DACA was rescinded, what was your first reaction?
Yeah, it was pretty difficult. I remembered when we first heard the news, it was my dad, my mom, and I like on the phone because
Mm.
I was a sophomore just that first semester, just coming back from summer break, and we were just like, well, like, is this really going to happen, right? Because we knew that it wasn't going to be that easy for the
Mhm.
administration to just rescind something that had just been created like a few years ago, because it had to go through a lot of steps to do
Mhm.
that. But the fact that that was on the top of his agenda to do as an incoming like fresh president or commander in chief, it's like that's big, that's hefty on us, like
Mhm.
he didn't mention a lot of big things, but that was like, yeah, we're gonna rescind the DACA program. So emotionally it was tough for the whole family. But it's funny because that's when I started to speak out about these things, like, well, why would you do something like that? And I know how much we contribute to the country. I know how much we contribute to the community. But, at the time, like we have this one person who was just like, who didn't understand what we had to offer on the table, even though it was a lot.
Mhm.
So emotionally, mentally, it was tough, especially for my parents, because they were actually more concerned for me than I was actually concerned for what's going to happen.
Mm.
Because literally, when I got the DACA program, they were excited. Like they were like, "Oh, so you can get a job now? Hopefully, like by the time comes, when the time comes, you potentially could sponsor us." And I'm like, "Well, again, like this isn't a program for me to get a citizenship, like at all, So
Mhm.
like even then, like they don't still understand like the full idea of what DACA was, but they were just grateful. But when that announcement came, it was quiet. That's all I remembered. It was quiet at the
Mm.
house.
So then what was the switch for you? Like what like at first, like there's a little bit of fear, it's emotional, it's like it's a shock. Like it would be to anyone's system. I'm sure it was just like a now what? So like what switched for you that you and can you tell us more about um what you did to like raise not only in 2017 but what you've done since then to raise awareness for DACA students, but also you've just talked about immigrants in general. You've always raised awareness for not just DACA recipients and dreamers, but the immigrant community in general. So like, let me rephrase that. So what was the switch mentally for you that you were like, let me not be quiet about this. Let me do something. Let me raise awareness for this.
You know when you start, not start, but when you've just let so many things slide, sometimes just to keep the peace within you. That was it for me. I couldn't keep the things inside of me anymore, because it was just starting a war within my mentality and my physical being, because that was a point, not the first, but that was one of the few points in my life where I was alone, because nobody really understood what could happen potentially, right? We're talking if he did, let's say he, like, all that program got rescinded within that next year, I could have been deported, because that is literally proof to Uncle Sam, like, yo, I entered this country unlawfully, and this is proof that you can be deported. So at that point, I was like, I'm not about to just sit here and not let everybody know. So I brought it up to the council. I think you were there, to the Culture Greek Council. I said, hey guys, like, this is what's going on right now with DACA. For those of you who don't know DACA, this is what it stands for. This is what it does for me. This is how it benefits me. And our current commander-in-chief at the time is going to rescind the program. And then everybody the next day, or that next hour, was like, let's do a walkout. Let's do a protest, right? And I was like, the time that we did this, that we executed this, was just so fast, like literally 2-3 days later, we were finding ourselves in front of the flagpole, just like rallying. And I couldn't even count how many people came. That was the switch for me. Like, I spoke up for like maybe 5-10 minutes, and I got the support for like the next 2 weeks, and even like the whole semester after that. That was the switch. So it took a lot to even like bring that up to the council. But when I knew that I did the right thing by speaking up, that's when I continued to raise awareness for not just the student body, but for the faculty, the staff, and even the Lehigh community in general.
Yeah, and I remember that time too, and I, like you said, it went so quickly, and like it was like a flash, and we were just like, you told us, and we were like, okay, what's next? What do we do? How do we help you? How do we support you? And we kind of followed your lead in what you wanted, because it was for you, and for others like you. And like you said, there weren't a lot at Lehigh, at least at the time, but we wanted to make Lehigh know that, like, hey, you better protect these students. Like these students are a part of our community. They're not any different than the rest of us. The only difference is that, like, they have this opportunity for them to be able to stay here, and that is in jeopardy. And so dreamers are just like all of us, and they deserve to be here. They deserve to stay. And I just want to say, I don't think I ever told you this, but like, I remember, because I was a senior then, and I was just like, wow, like this kid, like this kid, I thought, like, wow, he's so brave, because you did it like pretty much as soon as it was rescinded. And I know a lot of people went into hiding, not telling, afraid of sharing their status, and they have every right to. Like, that would probably be my response, was to be like, no one's gonna know. But I commend you for your bravery. I'm sorry you had to do that, but like, in order to like take care of yourself, and advocate for yourself, you kind of had to share that with everyone. But I do commend you, and I admire your bravery at the time and what you've done since then.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for that. Because I know that at the time, it's just like nobody was gonna bring it up. One, because there was barely any of us in there that identified as a DACA recipient. Two, it's not gonna be Lehigh 2 that's going to address that first. So somebody had to be that first domino to make the other dominoes fall, right? So it was hard, but again, with you guys, with the Muse LTAs at the time, like, it was just like, I didn't regret what I did, you know, like bringing that up in CGC. I didn't even regret just like talking in front of the whole, you know, Lehigh body at the time, because I know that this is something that they needed to know eventually. And I think, I don't know if you remembered, I think a few weeks after like that whole protest, Lehigh sent a school-wide email saying Lehigh is a sanctuary for dreamers, for DACA recipients. And I was like, damn, like this is really it right
Yeah.
here, you know? So that's also one of the reasons why I kept going with, you know, my DACA narrative to other people. And then that's when like the year after that, I saw more DACA recipients like coming in. And I was like, yeah, I remember you from that walkout and protest that you did with the CGC. I was like, really? Like, I've never seen it. So just having people come up to me privately and saying like, I thank you for that. I don't want to share my story, but I hope that you can speak on behalf of us. That says a lot, but also a lot of pressure on my end, right? And then that's how I deal with pressure, is to just continue to raise awareness and to literally serve my purpose, because I feel like if no one's going to talk about it, then somebody has to. So
Yeah.
that was what happened.
The pressure is a lot. The pressure is definitely a lot, whether you are an immigrant or whatever you identify, whatever minority group that you identify in. The pressure is a lot to speak out and to speak up for people. But like you said, if not you, then who? And if you feel like that is something that's stirring in you, or that's something that you can't like, it's like this weird like thing in your head that's like, like should I? And it's like, if you're already asking yourself that question, then you probably should.
Yeah, exactly.
So how, I guess like since that time, like DACA's kind of been all over the place with the government, like,
Right.
and I graduated. So when DACA was at first rescinded, that was the fall of 2017. And then I graduated and went to DC and worked on Capitol Hill. And there was a ton of like protests and me working for Senator Chuck Schumer, and he was the Democratic leader in the Senate, getting a ton of calls from people being like, protect DACA, protect DACA, protect DACA. But since that time, it's been like all over the place. And like last summer, it was reinstated. And now it's sort of back in the court's hands to determine if it's like constitutional. But the House and this recent administration are trying to pass the House recently just passed the American Dream and Promise Act, which would give a pathway to citizenship, not only to DACA recipients, but from this article that I read, it was 11 million undocumented residents, because it's not just DACA students that are undocumented. There are workers, like people that maybe your neighbors, you know, like you would never know who is considered undocumented, but people that contribute to our country, people that serve in our country in the military, they're teachers, you know, they're farm workers. They're the reasons we all have food on our table during this pandemic. Like all of this, what do you think are the critical sort of next steps for our government to take in regards to not just DACA recipients, but undocumented residents as a whole?
That's a tough question.
Yeah, obviously you don't have to have, there's no right or wrong answer. You don't have to have, it's like, it's not the how do you solve world peace kind of question.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a good question though, because there's a lot of things I want the government to do. And I hope that at this point, 2021, that the government and the American people understand how much undocumented immigrants and DACA recipients contribute to the economy, right? Because we pay taxes and we don't get any benefits, fun fact. And so because of that and all the other things after that, I think what the government should do is to start talking, even if they haven't had this conversation, to actually start talking about what they can do to further protect us. I think that's the first thing. And I'm glad that, you know, this act that you mentioned earlier, it's going to give us some sort of pathway to citizenship. because that was just like music to my ears when I heard it, right? Because there's just been a lot of things that we just do for this country, and I hope they just finally see with their eyes, like, we're here, like, we want to be here, we want to contribute for you guys, and we want to do our best to just, you know, display that we're not only hard workers, but we're also good people, flying from difficulties from our home. That's why we came here in the first place. So I think that that discussion need to be held. I personally don't know how government agendas work, but
we can have that's a whole separate conversation. I know a
yeah,
little bit.
yeah, like, even if again, I don't know, but I think the first thing to do is really, really just talking about it. I think it should mean a lot. And even, like, you know, doing something about it, not for public show, but just like actually put it in your agenda that, yo, we need, like, DACA needs to be on the list. Undocumented immigrants need to be on our list, something we have to talk about, like, today, because we're waiting, you know, we want to be here. So that's what I think the government should do.
I agree. I think like, y'all have lived long enough in limbo, and, like, will I or won't I be able to stay here tomorrow?
Right.
And so that's my personal take. If you're someone that maybe is on the fence or doesn't really know, that's kind of why I wanted you on in the first place, was just like, let's take this big sort of concept or topic of immigration, and specifically with DACA, and let's tell, like, a story, an individual story of someone that's experiencing this every day in the flesh. And so it's not just like some sort of far-fetched idea that you can't touch.
Right.
And like I said, like, these people could be your neighbors. Like, I had no idea that you were a DACA recipient until, like, I had known you at least for a year before you really said anything. And, like,
Exactly.
I'm sure there's a lot more at Lehigh since the 3 that you came in with. And, like, so for the rest of us, my question for you, for those of us that have the privilege of being born here and not having to worry about any of this, like deportation, I'm sure there's a lot of paperwork when it comes to that, like, added extra layer of being a DACA recipient. There's extra paperwork, etc. So how can the rest of us support and sort of follow your lead?
One of the most important things to do is to voluntarily and thoroughly educate yourselves. And this goes beyond what we contribute to the society. It goes beyond that, right? I think one of the first things we need to understand as a collective is, what does a DACA recipient look like? What does an undocumented immigrant looks like? A lot of the narratives is that they come from Latin America, they're from Mexico. No, that's not true at all. There has been, historically speaking, a lot more immigrants who come into the United States from continents like Europe, continents like Asia, who overstayed their visa, and that makes them undocumented. Okay. So I wanted to break that narrative first, because they can look like me, they can look like you, they can look like the person next to me who is just very pale. They can look like somebody like that lives right next to you. Like, it doesn't have to be somebody that comes from countries in South America, or from Mexico, from the DR, wherever it is, right? That is very important, because we need to get rid of this toxic narrative that, you know, media has placed upon our community. The second thing we need to do as a collective is to just show out. Whatever that looks like, it doesn't have to be anything that involves money. We can literally raise awareness by sharing posts on social media, show out to dialogues, you know, that we have in the Office of Multicultural Affairs about immigration. These things, they are free, one. Two, you can learn a lot from someone who knows of the topic and who is going through the personal experiences. I feel like people learn better when they get to see what it's like when you're in the shoe. right? And the fact that we're having this dialogue, people can learn a lot from this. Even if they don't see it, they can hear that these are the things I'm going through as a DACA recipient. The third and last thing I would try to recommend for people who are privileged enough to be born here, who have voting privileges, is to, how do I say this? Is to just be brave and explicitly say that you are with us. There was a point, I think this was last year, when somebody had just like rooted for us, like I'm with you guys, like I support you guys, and this was somebody that we didn't know, like out in public. And my dad and I were just like, it wasn't for us, but it wasn't to us, but it was somebody that was just like talking to a bunch of groups outside of Rittenhouse Park in Philadelphia. And when we saw that, we were just like, the fact that he's like explicitly like voicing his opinion, like his support for us, it means a lot, whether directly to them or indirectly to us, because it gives us hope that like somebody is listening and somebody understands finally that what we're going through. You don't like, people really underestimate the power of voices, right? Because when you speak out for someone or for something that is right, it sort of like projects this positivity and projects this incline in a graph that like, like my mentality is at a good state. Like I'm hopeful now for everything. So that's what I would recommend. There's a lot more other things you can do for us that are not free. But again, these are things we can do now, wherever you are, however you identify, and whenever.
I think you hit the nail on the head. And also, like, for those that aren't like DACA recipients, we have nothing to lose by showing our support for you.
Exactly.
Nothing to lose, nothing tangible or physical to lose. So it's like, why not?
Exactly.
Why not?
Exactly. There you go. Dabney, you hit it on the head too.
Thank you very much. I tried.
There's nothing to lose. There's nothing to lose.
No, and for like, when I what you were saying, like the power of voices is so important. Like people think that you have to put your body on the line necessarily. And there are those that do, and those people are helpful and important in their own way. But not everybody can put their body on the line. Not everyone has the financial means, physical means, emotional, mental health means to do so. So like something, as you said, something as sharing or having a conversation or attending a discussion or liking a post. Obviously, like you want to be careful not to be performative, but like I think there are baby steps. Like if you're someone that like this is all completely new for you, like speaking up and speaking out for something is new for you, like something as simple as reading and liking something, sharing something, it like there is a process to these things. Yeah, like again, like those are simple things all of us can do.
Exactly. Yep. Free 99.
Free 99. We love it. We love everything, anything that's free. And then my last question for you, until we get into like the more fun questions. At the heart of all of this is citizenship, but mainly having a safe, familiar place to call home. And so I would love to know for you, what does home mean to you?
Oh man, it's like home has been a difficult term to define for me because I'm still stuck between my Indonesian roots and my American quote unquote home. I'm, till the end of the day, till I die, I will always identify as Indonesian first because that's who I am, right? However, I have adapted so many American qualities, even like a few American mentality. So it's hard for me to say which one is home now because I know that my heart says that my home is in Indonesia, but my mind is telling me that it's technically here because of what I know. And I haven't been to Indonesia since when I was 7. and I'm 22 turning 23. So that's 16 years I haven't been to Indonesia. I haven't seen any of my family other than my mom and dad. I haven't gotten a chance to visit my granddad's graveyard, who passed away while I was here, and we couldn't do anything about it but to send money over there because we couldn't go back. And my dad lost his brother, my uncle, during around the same time. So what is home? Like that, I'm like stuck in the middle, sort of, because like how I define home nowadays is just who I know, which are my parents, my mom and dad. I've been privileged to say that I still have them both in my life, and my experiences. So my experiences, like I said, it's predominantly been, you know, Western. It's been American, and if this is what home is like for me, then I'm going to stick with that until further notice. Because once I visit Indonesia, I feel like I'll have a better sense of cultural understanding of what I missed out on within the last 16 years. Because the last 16 years have just been straight out like cheesesteaks and hamburgers. You know, like I like the only Indonesian food that I've gotten to have was like the basics. And like again, like even like the language I still keep to this day because I don't want to lose that. So that's what home is. Home is for me is who I know, the experiences I've been blessed to, you know, have had the last 16 years. And I'm glad I was able to actually find home here at Lehigh with like, you know, CGC or MGC when you guys had it. And other people that just came along after you guys had left, because, you know, these people, they're actually more more outspoken about just every issue that we bring to the table. So that's home for me.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. I know that can't be that's not always easy, but
You're asking hard questions, Dabney.
That's what we do here. I don't play here. I ask the hard questions here. If you ever come on, I'm not gonna play with you.
Ready, that's all I'm saying.
But thanks for sharing. And like you said, like home doesn't always have to be a physical place. It could always just be people. And I hope one day you're able to go back to Indonesia and see your family there.
And I'm taking everybody with me.
Hey, I'm down. You better tell me. I'm holding you to it now.
No, I'm down. Like, listen, take your PTOs. We're going. Let's go.
Drop everything. All right. So we're going to switch in to a little more fun questions because, you know, DACA is a part of your identity, but it's not the only part of your identity. There's more to you than meets the eye. And I only got like 4 questions. It's not, these are easy. Well, the last one may be hard, but these are pretty easy. But the first one I got for you, are you ready, first of all?
Yes, I'm ready. Always ready.
So for people listening right now, they don't know, or if they don't know you, but if you know Julius, you know that he's a pretty like fly guy. And when I say fly, I mean like he's always looking fresh. He's like, you're a bit bougie.
A bit, very.
A lot of bit, but you're bougie. And so like, you know, because you like to look nice, you like to look fresh. Like if you saw Julius, you would think like, that's a guy that smells good.
Yeah. Thank you.
Always looking, you're welcome. But I would like to know, what is your favorite like statement piece?
My favorite statement piece. That is a great question. Oh man. Okay. So I think every year with fashion in general, there's always a trend, right? Like, I don't know if you know, Dabney, but the trend nowadays are like basics and even a lot of tech wear. So like cargos has been a trend. Utility jackets has been a trend. Like that vest, that utility vest has been a thing. However, my favorite statement piece is always a basic, like black jeans, a medium oversized black shirt and my brown Chelsea boots because it's just so plain.
Classic.
Yeah, it's so easy to just put on. I think everybody could pull it off, but this is like a very versatile look. Like you can go to class with this outfit, you can go out to the club with this outfit, and this is for like literally everybody. Like you guys could literally pull this off wherever.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's cold out there where you're living, put that pea coat on. Listen, Dabney, like this is like, people say this is like that's a very basic Kappa outfit. And I'm like, well,
I
listen,
mean,
listen,
y'all are known for being, like
yeah,
shoulders.
I mean, what can we do, right? Like, maybe throw a little scarf in there too. But that, I would say that's still like my favorite piece, like to this day. You could just never go wrong with it. And I love Chelsea boots because you just put it on. You don't have to worry about laces, and it's comfortable and then looks right.
I don't know if I have Chelsea boots. I don't think I do. I should invest in them.
Definitely get one. You should definitely get one.
I just got myself Doc Martens recently,
Oh,
so
okay. Like the classic ones, like the black.
Yeah, like the black ones. Because like I like shoes that I can wear multiple times. Like you said, like with anything, like for any purpose. Like you could dress it up, you could dress it down. They're good to go.
Yeah. I like that about Doc Martens suits. It's very versatile. You can definitely wear it like even like all season. Do you think that's an all season thing, like the Doc Martens?
I mean, I don't think so. Well, I definitely feel like it's more seasons than not.
Okay.
Like fall, winter, and spring. Summer, it's maybe too hot.
Yeah. Chelsea boots, you could still pull it off.
But I feel like you could also, for Doc Martens, you could wear the boots with like a dress, like during the summer, like when it's like colder, like at night, So like so if you're going out to dinner or something, like you could just throw them on with like a nice dress and like a jean jacket.
Okay. Is that your fashion statement piece usually?
Jean jackets and leather jackets are, I feel like, my statement pieces.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like anything basic, everyone should definitely have, because the thing with like dressing basic is that like it kind of makes you look expensive. Like that's what I know about fashion. It's like the more basic you dress, like it just looks like you're well put together. So like I'm wearing a graphic tee right now, and that this is just like for the gym, so. But yeah, I would say that's my fashion piece statement.
Awesome, thanks.
That was kind of hard too. Wait a minute. I don't think I'm ready.
It's because you like fashion so much, you can't just choose one. That's why it's hard for you. But you should have seen, like, if you're only listening to this audio wise, you should have seen his face. Like he was just like, you're really passionate.
I don't think I'm ready for this, Dabney. Like,
it's not hard.
It's not. But like.
Now, my next question for you is more photography related, because you're big into photography. How would you describe your photography style?
Okay, so I first bought my digital camera last year, like around like end of March last year. So when quarantine was like on full blast, and ever since then, my style has been the same, which are shooting portraits, and it's usually in the streets, like outside. So I would categorize as like urban portraits. That's I don't know if that's an actual thing, but
that makes sense. I see what you're putting down.
Yeah, that's more of my style. And whenever I do shoots with people, Dabney, you're gonna understand this soon enough. I consult with them first, because you have to, when you're taking pictures, you start with what the model is wearing, and then you got to figure out what their statement piece would look right in. Right. So I have to understand that. So for example, let's say I'm doing a graduation shoot for you for your master's or your PhD, for example.
I'm not getting a PhD, but it's really nice of you to think.
Let's assume, right? Okay, Dabney, well, what are you going to be wearing? You're going to say, well, I'm going to have my stole on and probably my cap and gown. And I was like, okay, well, we could probably do it at your school. However, if you tell me I'm probably going to wear like a white dress or like a black dress, I would say, okay, well, we need to figure out a place where it looks like it's very formal in the background, like an art museum or something. It's
Mm.
something different, you know what I mean? And then after that, I tell them we have to shoot during golden hour, and that depends where you are in the country, right? So let's say in Bethlehem right now, in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, golden hour, I would say right now is between like 4:30, like 3:30 to like 4:30 to 5.
Mm.
Because that's when like the light is sort of like coming down, but it's technically still like more light. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really my style. I go through like a whole process to make sure that like my portfolio is consistent with what I want to put on.
Yeah. And do you usually like go to the person or do you have them come to you?
It's been both, I would say. When I first started out, I asked people to do models for me to build up my portfolio. So of course, obviously, I never charged them at first, and then slowly, when I began to put work out, people has been coming to me. So what I need to do actually is to like market myself more, because I feel like, you know, I can do a lot with what I have, but now that people are just coming to me, it's just sort of, you know, automatic. Like I don't really need to like put out anything to prove myself or
Mm-hmm.
to them.
Yeah.
So I have a website too, so if you want to check that out.
No, I mean, the last question I got for you is how can people reach like at the end?
Okay, okay,
So
okay.
you'll pull in the plug soon. You'll pull in the plug.
Yeah, yeah.
So my next question for you is again, like I said earlier, you're a brother of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated, which is a part of the Divine Nine. And I'm gonna have a whole separate episode. I may ask for you to come back to represent
Okay, no problem.
because I want to do like a Greek episode on Greek life and stuff like that, but specifically like multicultural and like Black
Hmm.
fraternities
Okay.
and sororities. But now you've been in, wasn't it just recently your Capiversary?
It's today.
It's today?
Today.
Oh, happy Capiversary.
Yeah,
How old are you?
it's weird. So I'm 4 now. I'm 4 in the game, 4 years in the game.
Wow.
But it's weird because there was a line of 7. The first 4 actually crossed yesterday, but the rest crossed today. But we actually like agreed to make it today. That
Oh,
today is like our new anniversary. But I still consider yesterday technically as my new anniversary, but on paper it's like today.
nice, nice, nice. Congratulations. Happy 4 years.
Thank
You're
you.
about to be considered an old head soon.
Next year I'll be 5.
Yeah.
That's scary, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, usually it's
Whoa.
like 5 years and up, you're considered an old head.
Yeah.
I'm 6.
That mean.
Don't know how that happened. But my question for you related to that is what is one of your favorite memories with your brothers?
My favorite memories with my brothers. I have a lot. See, you asking hard questions, man. Oh,
I
yeah,
love it.
single out all these things. I would say before quarantine, it was alumni brothers and the brothers on the yard. What that means is current brothers that are active
Hmm.
on the chapter. We we had gone to New York City and Manhattan. I think it was Midtown, and the brothers rented out like a space in the rooftop,
Ooh.
and we were up there. It was like 20, 25 of us just deep, just, you know, having fun. All, by the way, we were all 21, 22 by that time. We weren't drinking illegally. uh, this was actually 2019. Yeah, this was like the week before first semester started in the fall.
Mhm.
And I couldn't tell you how much fun I had during that night, because everybody were just connecting with each other. Everybody were having fun. And we had caught up about stuff. You know, it was just like the guys. And then like it was just crazy at one point because everybody was just like smacked. But it was good because like we don't get a chance to do that often, you know, because
Mhm.
the thing with our chapter is that usually alums like spend a lot more time together before COVID,
Mhm.
but the undergrad boys would be like taking care of business. But this like at Lehigh is what I meant. So this
Mhm.
time we were like, well, we're gonna go with y'all guys and see how this goes. We ended up having a lot of fun. It was like a weird age group. Right? It was like 40-year-olds and like 35-year-olds, and then there were like the 22-year-olds. So everybody was just clicking with another, and I got a chance to get to know more like from, you know, my alumni brothers, and
Mhm.
I just had so much fun. And I really like, once all of this is over, I hope we can get together again, like big
I'm
time.
sure y'all will. I feel like everyone's kind of like, everyone's ready for it.
I'm
I don't,
ready.
everyone's ready. I don't think anyone will say no. We'll just be like, send
I
day,
think,
time,
are
place,
you
I'm
guys
there.
doing the same thing? Is LT's doing anything like that once this is over?
I mean, everyone's at different levels of like where they are in taking the vaccine,
Okay. Okay.
but
That's fair.
probably most likely. I mean, I miss especially like the alum sisters. I talk about them as if I'm not an alum myself, but
Yeah.
there's certain ones that I haven't been able to see. Like, for example, like I always see Alejandra in DC, Alejandra and Venus in DC, and I haven't been able to see them. I
Wow.
usually, like, ever since I've interned there, I've seen them every year,
Okay.
and I haven't been able to. I literally, the week before we shut down, the weekend before, I had just been in DC and I saw them, and then like I came back to Delaware and they sent us home. So I
Oh,
got lucky that I got to do that before. But
oh yeah, absolutely. I think once everyone is fully vaccinated, doing what they're supposed to do, I think this could happen.
yeah.
Hopefully by late this year, next year. We'll see.
We're almost there. We're almost there. I believe we can do it.
I
And then my last question for you, it's very random. It kind of ties back into your bouginess a little bit. But if you won the jackpot today, like the jackpot lottery today, what
uh-huh.
would you do with the money? And be honest.
Okay.
Don't come here and be like, well, I would give, like, when you probably wouldn't. What would you
Yeah,
actually do?
no, I'm not giving it to nobody. Probably my parents, like a little bit. Okay, the first thing I do for real, like, is to invest in real estate. Like, I've always just wanted to have properties across. Like, if I'm gonna be here, like in my lifetime, I'll
Mhm.
probably have properties in all 50 states. Just
That's a
because.
big goal.
Um,
Mhm.
and then the second thing I would do is probably pay off my student loan debt because that's a real thing
That's not
nowadays.
the first thing you would do. That's the
I
first
mean,
thing I would
nah,
do.
nah, nah, nah. Because like the houses thing is more important. You know what I mean? Because if,
True.
if I want it today during the pandemic, I'm gonna buy some real estates because they're probably at a low price.
True.
Um, the third thing I would do, I would my closet, Dabney. You already know. Like, I'm going to Balenciaga, going to Fendi, just just cashing out. And I'm taking you with me probably.
I
Like,
was about to say, I'm like, are you gonna donate to
yeah, I
Dabney
mean, I'll
Brice?
take you, I'll take Marissa, I'll take Jasmine, all the music, everybody, let's go. We out. Come on, get whatever you want to get. Nah, seriously, that's what I would do. And then yeah, and then probably put the rest for like, my parents, obviously. Right. And
Yeah, you
my
better take care of your parents.
that's what I would do. That's the dream, man. Like, what else would I do with it? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
That's why I said be honest. What would
I
you
am
actually?
honest. I am honest.
No,
Like,
I
that's
appreciate
what
it.
I
No,
would
I
do.
know you are. I know that. I know I would catch you if you were it.
Wait,
I'd
is
be
this like
like,
a question? Is this a question every interview participants have been asked?
no, everyone. No,
Okay,
I
okay,
just
okay.
asked that. I was thinking of a last question. I was like, what's the last like fun random question I could ask? I was
Because
like,
I was
what would he
gonna,
do with a ton of money? Because I feel like you're on that path because you're in like the finance world. So I'm like,
yeah, yeah,
he's
yeah,
getting there. So I'm curious what he would actually do with it.
yeah. Real estate is important. Family and friends. It's a way to build your wealth. So look into it.
And if you have kids in the future,
And kids, yeah,
generational wealth.
yeah. Well, we're not thinking about that. Well, he's
I
not.
didn't say now, but I'm just saying
Yeah, eventually down in the
if
line.
if that's a road you decide to take, you have generational wealth.
There you go. There you go. Yes. Listen to what Dabney said. Yes. Get having
um,
this in your radar. Yes.
and then just last but not least, how can people reach you?
You can reach me. Um, I don't want to say email. That's boring, man. Like,
I was
just shoot me a DM on
I was about to say, I'm
Instagram.
like, most people just show their Instagrams.
Like, shoot me on Instagram, Julius Julius Verdio Verdio, or you can go to my website, which we were talking about earlier. That's where I put all my work, my portfolio. Julius V Wibisono at no what?
Uh,
Let me rephrase that. JuliusVWibisono.com. There you go. That's where you'll find most of my work. You can reach me there. Please don't, unless you have MySpace, you can reach me on MySpace. You remember MySpace, Dabney? Oh my goodness.
I never had a MySpace, but I know.
What?
Okay, first of all, how old were you having a MySpace?
I was young.
That's what I'm saying. I was like, MySpace was what my older cousins did, and I would watch them be on MySpace, but I wasn't I didn't get a Facebook until high school.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even remember.
Instagram, I didn't get until Lehigh. I was a sophomore when I got an Instagram. And Twitter, I just got last year. So
you remember Tom from MySpace?
Mm-hmm.
That was like one of the only like friends on MySpace I had because it was.
Because you were like what, 5? On MySpace? 5, 6,
something like that. Yeah, when I first get to the States, I got a MySpace. Like I had to get with the trend. Can't be behind.
See, that's how y'all know. Like, this is Julius. 7 years old on MySpace. For what reason?
I don't even know. I just had it just because this is how people like I have MySpace. Yeah.
Okay. Well, if you want
to,
of course, I thank you for being on. Thank you for sharing your story.
Absolutely.
It was really fun, and I appreciate it, and I know the listeners will too.
Thank you everyone for tuning in.
I don't know about y'all, but that episode really made me feel good and made me think more deeply and seriously about my privilege in having citizenship in this country. It also made me very grateful for my parents who came over here for a better life, for opportunity, for security, and the fact that I was born here and I don't have to have the same worries as Julius does. That's a privilege, and I recognize that, and I am grateful for that. But I also want to speak up and speak out for those that don't have that privilege. And so here's hoping that DACA, there's more, I guess, a stronger policy towards helping those that are undocumented and that contribute to this country have an easy pathway to citizenship. So that's something that's really important to me. For this week's Dabney debrief and for the reflection question, I ask you, what does home mean to you? And how do you create a place that feels like home? Again, recognizing that if you were born in this country, you have a privilege of being born, having citizenship in this country. And if you are not, if you are maybe somewhere else around the world, or if you are not a citizen living in the US, I want to know, what does home mean to you? Is it a physical place? Is it people? Is it something else? Is home not a end goal, but something that you're always working on and striving towards? Yeah. And how, if that's something that, if that's what home means to you, how do you create that? How do you create what home feels like for you? So think about that more deeply and let me know your thoughts. I can't wait to hear what you guys think about it. So yeah, I'll see you next week. Thank you for listening to today's episode. For links and resources, check out the episode notes. If you liked what you heard, help your girl out by leaving a 5-star rating and a review. For more content and updates, follow the show's Insta at the @Uplift_podcast. And spread the word by telling your friends and sharing on social media. Subscribe to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening right now. For any questions or business inquiries, you can email me at theupliftpodcast1@gmail.com. This was The Uplift with Dabney Brice. See you next time.